Number 2 says, find the slope of the tangent line of the graph g sub x equals 5 minus x squared at x equals 1 comma 4, at the point 1 comma 4. Find the slope of the tangent line. That's the key. Find the slope of the tangent line. That's your derivative. That's what the slope of the tangent line, which is the limit as delta x approaches 0 of f of x plus delta x, you can use h if you want to, minus f of x divided by h. You can get it as a function of x, and you want it at 1 and 4, let x be 1, and you'll have your answer. Again, I call this the 4-step process. F of x plus h, or delta x. You can tell I always use h, so it takes me a while to remember that. That means replace x with x plus delta x. And if you FOIL this, that's 5 minus, FOIL that, that's x squared plus 2x delta x plus delta x squared. And that's equal to 5 minus x squared minus 2x delta x minus delta x squared. That's the answer to step number 1. Step number 2, find f of x plus delta x minus f of x. Five minus x squared minus 2x delta x minus delta x squared. Subtract from it f of x, which is what? 5 minus x squared. And again, the 5 will cancel the 5. And x squared will cancel x squared. You're subtracting the same thing. The result is negative 2x delta x minus delta x squared. Step number 3, take the difference and divide it by delta x. So take the result of step number 2 and divide it by delta x. That means divide each one of them by delta x. That will make it negative 2x minus delta x. You're dividing this by delta x, and you're dividing that by delta x. And what's step number 4? Take the limit of f of x plus delta x minus f of x divided by delta x as delta x approaches 0. That's the limit of this one. Now let delta x be 0. What do you have? Negative 2x minus 0, which is negative 2x. So you want the slope at 1, at x equals to 1. That would be negative 2 times the 1, which is what? Negative 2. So the slope of the tangent line at x equals 1 and y equals to 4 is negative 2. So if I plug in negative 2 here, and I submit my answer, and I'll wait for it, and I got it right. 4 is the same as this. I'll do 3. So I'll skip 4. I'll do this with this kind of cheating way. Again, it says find the derivative. And they want us to use the long process. Find the derivative by the limit process. And you have f of x equals to 2. Remember what the derivative is. Using the limit process is this one. The limit as delta x approaches 0. F of x plus delta x minus f of x all divided by delta x. That's what the limit process is. The 4-step process. So step number 1, again, 4-step. What is f of x plus delta x? It says go to the f function. Every time you see x, replace with x plus delta x. There is no x. It's only a 2. And it stays 2. Step number 2, take the difference. Two minus 2, which is what? 0. Step number 3, take the difference and divide it by what? Delta x. So 0 divided by delta x, which is what? 0. And step number 4, take the limit of f of x plus delta x minus f of x all divided by delta x as delta x approaches 0. That's the limit of 0 as delta x approaches 0. So go to this, and every time you see delta x, take it out, put a 0. There is no delta x, there's only a 0. The limit of any constant is the constant. So what is the derivative? Is 0. I couldn't answer this without doing any of these steps by knowing the definition. Remember, the definition of derivative is what? The derivative is the slope of the tangent line. So if you graph that, if I graph f of x equals to 2, what does it look like? This is 1 and this is the 2. This is f of x equals to 2, y equals to 2. And what's the slope of that? The derivative is the slope of the tangent line. What is the derivative of that? 0. So I could answer it that way without having to go through the 4 steps. Let me jump to 11, see what was 11. Okay, 11 will be a little bit long there. You have f of x equals the square root of x plus 5, and you have the point 11 comma 4. And the question is, find the equation of the tangent line. At that point, at 11 comma 4, So basically, I know what we have. We have a square root. And this square root, if you graph it, the domain starts at negative 5. So there's the negative 5. And it looks like this, basically. That's what the graph looks like. And what I want to know, when x is equal to 11, right there, there's a tangent line. And can you tell me what the name of that line is? It looks something like that. Notice it comes down, intersect the y-axis right there, and to find the slope. So to find the equation of the line, that's what they're asking for, we need to use y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Y minus, do we know what y sub 1 is? 4 equals m times x minus 11. So this is your x sub 1, this is your y sub 1. So the only thing is unknown to us is what? The slope. If I have m, can I find the equation? So I need to find m. Well, how do we find m? M is the slope. The slope of that tangent line, which is the derivative. So I need to go through that, calculate what the slope is. Once I figure what that number is, I can plug it in, and I have the answer to that problem. So step number 1, the 4-step process, f of x plus delta x. Go to this function, replace x with x plus delta x. And that's what you have. Can't simplify it. Step number 2, take the difference. X plus delta x plus 5 minus f of x, which is, and you can't simplify these two. Step number 3, take the answer, bless you, and divide it by delta x. Okay, there's my answer. Divided by delta x, and not much I can do. And what's the last step, number 4? Take the limit as delta x approaches 0. So that's the limit as delta x approaches 0. And the first step in the limit is what? Direct substitution. You end up with 0 over 0, which is a problem. Can I fix that? Which way? Very good. Multiply by the conjugate. So this will be, I got to find the answer to this. That's the slope. It's the limit of delta x approaches 0 of the square root x plus delta x plus 5 and what I'm going to do now, multiply by the conjugate, and the conjugate is x plus delta x plus 5 plus notice I'm multiplying the top and the bottom by the same thing. Otherwise, you change the value of the fraction. And the bottom, leave it alone, just delta x times on the top. When you FOIL this one out, remember using the FOIL method, the square root of this times the square root of this, it just loses the square root. This times this will cancel this times that, disappear. Minus the square root of x plus 5 times the square root of x plus 5, which is x plus 5. And what do you notice quickly? That the x will cancel the x, and the 5 will cancel the 5. I see something else that will cancel. I'll wait on it. That'll be delta x on the top. That's what's left over. And again, that delta x cancels the delta x. And try direct substitution. So if you try direct substitution, that's 1 over what? 2 times the square root of x plus 5. You're letting delta x be 0. But I wanted the slope at where? At x equals 11. That's what the point was. 11 comma 4. See that 11 comma 4? X is 11. Can you tell me what the slope at that point will be? 1 over 2 times the square root of 11 plus 5, that's 16. That's 1 over 8. Once I have my slope, I'll come back to this and I'll plug it in, then I'm done. Go back to this one. What's the equation of my line? Y minus 4 equals 1/8 times x minus 11. I just got to clean that. Y minus 4 equals 1/8 x minus 11 over 8. Take the minus 4 there, becomes a plus 4. The 4 is 4 over 1. So if you're going to add or subtract fractions, what do you need? Common denominator, which is what? And that's 32 over 8, right? So what is y equal to? I can write that as x plus, what's that, 21? Or negative x? Or no, x plus 21 over what? 8? Or 1/8 x plus 21 over 8. It's the same thing. This is easier to write. So it's a fraction, x plus 11 divided by 21, not 11, right? 21.
Yeah, 21.
X plus 21 divided by 8. Let's see if they want it this way. The slope is 1/8, and the y-intercept is what? What is 21 divided by 8? Isn't that almost a 3, 2 plus? something?
It's like a 2.7.
Yep. So you gotta look and see which one has a y-intercept of somewhere. Well, it looks like A to me. I don't know if I got it right till I get to it. Where is it? Yes, they like the equation the way like this, so there's no problem with that. And they like the graph. Let me look at the other to the last two. Okay. The limit to find the equation of the tangent line. The same thing. For number 12 is the same thing. It's going to take really the same process. Find the equation of the tangent line. They're giving you a point. So you got to find the slope, go through the whole process just like this. Plug it in. So 12 is very similar to that. I'll let it go. And I'll go 13. What is 13? The tangent line of the graph y equals gx at the point 1, 4 passes through the point 8 and 3. Okay, let's see. I have no idea what the graph looks like. So we have some graph y equals g sub x. Let's say the graph, I don't know, I'm just doing something like this. And this is 1 and 4. This is the point 1 and 4. This is the tangent line of that. Well, I should have made it. Because that's the y value is 4, so it's coming down. It's decreasing a little bit. Passes through this point, the tangent line, passes through the point 8 and 3. That's what it says. Find. So this is g sub x. Find g sub 1. That's the first question. Basically, when x equals to 1, so what is the y value? Isn't it this point? It's 4. And the next one, what is g sub prime at 1? The derivative of 1. Isn't the derivative the slope of the tangent line? So let's find the slope of that tangent line. We have 2 points. y2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Y sub 2, 3 minus the 4. X sub 2, 8 minus the 1. That's a negative 1 over 7. So what is the derivative at 1? Fraction. Can I, the box not showing up? Or maybe if I go to the right, maybe, yeah. Nope. Can I just write minus 1 slash 7? Does it take it?
Yeah, it does.
Minus 1/7. And yes, we got it. So this is just making sure you understand what the definition of the derivative. The derivative is the slope of the tangent line. This is your tangent line. And what's the slope of that line? You get 2 points. y2 minus y1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1.